see you guys in the dark.
I don't know how to talk about this or who to talk about it with. This happened the other day, but my sister doesn't believe me. I don't think my boyfriend believes me either. Now, for some context, my sister who doesn't believe, she's 16 years old. I'll call her Destiny. The other sister who was there, I'll call her Kate. She's 3. So the other day, I was in the living room of my mom's house with Destiny, watching TV. It was about 11 a.m. when Kate had woken up. She walked into the living room like she usually does after waking up, and walked to the couch. I was watching my cousin at the time, who is only 4 months old. A little time passes, and I change the baby's diaper. I asked Kate if she would go to the kitchen and throw it away. She was perfectly fine and happy about it. She walked to the door frame where the kitchen and living room meet. She then walked over to me and asked if I can go with her, and opened the door to the pantry. That's where we keep our trash can. I had the baby on me, so I couldn't. Plus, she can open perfectly fine with no problem. She started to cry. Now, from my perspective, I'm sitting in a chair where you can see into the kitchen and the pantry. My sister Destiny, on the other hand, is sitter facing away from the kitchen, so she can't see Kate at all. So we think that, she just doesn't want to throw it away and is grumpy. Then as we are trying to talk to her, she pushed her stomach out and jumped forward. When she did that, she screamed super loudly. It was random. She ran over next to me, and when she turned around to face the kitchen, she screamed loud again. Now at this point, Destiny is annoyed with Kate not knowing or seeing anything that happened. I, on the other hand, seen the face that Kate had made, so I was shaken up and kind of in shock. It had looked like something touched or pushed Kate. Now usually, if I was in Destiny's shoes, I would probably not think much of it. But the look that Kate had on her face was like she was terrified. She was petrified. I began to tell Destiny that something just happened, and she's sitting there like, she's just being bad. Destiny then asked Kate what happened, and she responded with, "Something touched my back." Now, after what I had just seen, I had believed her. Destiny thinks it's all in my mind. So a few minutes pass, and I take Kate to go to the bathroom. I decided now would be a good idea to ask Kate what happened. I asked her, why didn't you want to throw away the diaper? She responded with, because I was scared. I planned on asking her more questions right then, but I was scared to find out. A couple of hours passed, and Kate is in her room playing. I asked her some more questions about it, and this is where I get a little freaked out. As I'm asking her those questions, she's looking into the door the entire time. She looked nervous and scared. I asked her what it was, and she said that she didn't know. So I asked her what color it was, and she said blue, red, and yellow. After this answer, I'm like, maybe I'm making this bigger than what it is. She's just a kid. It's not a big deal. But the way that she kept looking behind me was unsettling. I asked where it is, and she said that it's in Mommy's room, the room next to hers. I walk with her to the hall, and she says that the thing that touched my back is in there, and she points. I walk to the living room with Kate, and I don't mention it anymore. I text my mom and tell her what happened to Kate, but I didn't give any detail. So a few hours later, my mom gets home, and I tell her all about it. She then takes Kate to her room and asks her about it. She tells our mom that it's in Mom's room, and that it's red, blue, and yellow. She also adds that it was in the chair in my mom's room. Destiny thinks that I made Kate say this stuff, and all of that. I don't think a 3-year-old would be able to comprehend all this information from me telling her, when I only talk to her privately for a few minutes at a time. My mom believes it. We think Kate doesn't understand lying yet. I don't understand why she would lie about something so weird. I used to live in the Philippines, and the house that I lived in was built when the Philippines was being occupied by Japan during World War II. It had 2 small walkways, one at the side of the house and one at the back of the house. At the corner where the 2 walkways meet is where my dog's huge wooden doghouse was. I say huge because I could literally go in and sleep in it comfortably, and I was a huge kid of 12 years old. One night I was told by my uncle to go and feed Casper. Of course I said yes, right away because I wanted to play with my dog, and so I went. Now Casper is a happy dog, always running around, and always happy to see any of my family, but that night was different. While I was walking towards his doghouse, I realized that I don't hear him barking or running around, so I thought that he was at the back walkway. So I just continued forward. It was nighttime, probably around 8 o'clock. I stopped halfway through when I noticed that Casper was inside the doghouse. Now, this was worrisome for me. He always ran at me when he sees me. So I thought maybe something was wrong, like he was sick or whatever. So I quickened my pace to get to him. Once I got there, though, he seemed fine. I put down the dog food next to him and filled up his water bowl. No reaction whatsoever. Casper was just staring towards the back walkway. I got curious, so I looked towards where he was looking at, and what I saw still gives me chills when I remember that day. I saw a man standing there just staring at me with a blank expression. He was wearing some type of military uniform and was holding a rifle. I'm not a gun expert, so I can't tell you all what kind it was. At the tip of the gun rested a bayonet. What got me confused on it was that it was a bloody bayonet. At this point, I was just frozen. I remember the fear and thinking, this is it. Someone was here, and he is going to kill me. I don't quite remember what made me look away from that bayonet, but when I did, the first thing that I noticed was how the man was now missing half of his face. Seeing him only have half of a face jolted me out of my frozen state, and I ran for it. I did not care to look back to see if he was following me or not. I even tackled my uncle, who was coming to check on me. I cried so hard when I realized that I was on top of my uncle. He took me inside and waited for me to stop crying. I fell asleep then. The next morning, my uncle talked to me about what happened, and I told him everything. He was genuinely worried when I finished, because he told me that I was out there in the walkway for an hour, and it was the reason why he was coming to check on me. He also told me that I wasn't the only one to experience such things in the house. I later found out that the uniform the man was wearing was the standard Japanese military uniform at the time of World War II. My grandfathers passed away 2 weeks apart from each other. On both sides of my family, my dad's and my mom's dad. Both were incidentally murdered, one by his meth distributor with laced dope. Sadly, only 3 people knew that he smoked, let alone sold the shit. My dad's dad. He was a great guy who always gave sage advice and was always busy. I called him Pawpaw. My mom's dad was a man with little time for bullshit. A former drill sergeant in the National Guard, former head of international paper, and apparently a grade A drug smuggler because he died worth more than a few $1,000,000. That money would be his downfall, as my mother and aunt used the air conditioning to finally determine his demise, as he had COPD and the flu the last time he came home from the hospital, as the last time I would see the man, besides his coffin at least. And I lived with him. My grandfather didn't bullshit me on life. I had to work for shit that I wanted. I called him Harold my whole life, not Grandpa or any term of enduring love. He was a cold man, but I loved the guy. They passed in mid-2009. By 2018, I was a grown man living on my own, planning a wedding, fixing up my home, things like that. I keep pictures of them both, so I never forget their faces. I like to drive. I drive for a living. I drive to escape. I just drive a lot. So one night, late in October, in the dead of night, I get a run sitting at home watching TV. So I get up to go take said run, get in my car, and I take off. I pick up the food. Fine, no issues. But then realize the drop-off was 2 cities away in a small hole in a mountain town outside of Bella Vista. But I already have the food, and I can tell from the odd amount of pay there is a tip, so I take it. For context, I moved from my hometown in 2010 and moved 4.5 hours north to get away from my family and the poor path choices that I have made. The drive was crap. up the side of a mountain in highway construction, down old non-paved side drives, winding around the mountain. Now I'm going to lay one more bit of information on you guys. Pawpaw was a hunter. The man did 3 tours in Nam as a Marine. He lived and breathed the woods. I get to the drop off the order, and notice they in fact did tip well. It was a $32 tip to be exact. So I trot my happy ass back to the truck and jump in. I clear my shift because it's late, and I don't want to drive around a mountain town for the next hour. I fix my radio and light a cigarette, and then I'm off somewhere. I lost all signal, and as a result, lost my GPS. So a few wrong turns later, I'm in a field jutting off the side of the mountain overlooking a trailer park. And to my left, I see a small light, like a headlamp. So I roll down my window to maybe ask if this is what I thought was a person. How to get out of this apparent hunting field and back to the main road when I saw his face. Under the dim light, I saw my pawpaw, not 10 feet from my truck. I blinked and the light was gone. The person, or my grandpa, I don't know what it was. It was just empty woods. My phone's GPS reconfigured as I left. I was about 15 minutes away from the main road. Maybe it was a lack of sleep. God knows I don't sleep enough. Or maybe it was just my granddad's coon-ass spirit being one with the woods. I really don't know. This happened years ago, on a family holiday away. I think my brother had been known for seeing things beforehand. However, this solidified people's beliefs of what he was saying. We were walking on a pier, and I was walking a few feet in front of the rest of the family. I must have been around 10 at the time. My brother, who would have been about 6, turned to my mother and said, "You had another baby in your tummy, but she died," and pointed to me and said, "She's standing next to her now. She's a bit smaller, though." This shocked the whole family, and they all looked at each other in disbelief. Anyway, a few other weird encounters happened on that holiday, like him correctly guessing an old family dog name and the color, as well as describing a woman that would have been my great-grandma. Anyways, we got home, and they broke the news to me as well. My brother knew anyways. I was crying, confused and angry that he had somehow found out before me. I just couldn't understand. Nothing more really came of it. He grew up, and he stopped telling us about what he saw. Presumably, he had grown out of it. Fast forward to now, this evening. We were sitting and talking about life, and I brought up about how he could talk to ghosts, and if he could still now. He became extremely uncomfortable and said he didn't want to talk about it. I asked him why. He said that if you spoke about it, then that's when you start seeing things again. I pressed on, asking how you knew that I had a twin. He said, "You just know." He started describing life as a painting. That's when you're old. You have a whole portrait painted out. When you're young, you've only got a couple of sketches. He stopped then. I have no idea what it means, but it freaked me out. And I'm sure we're both going to be kept up thinking about it. It's very weird. I may ask him more questions in the morning. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.